Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very grateful to Nicola at ILFA for inviting me to speak, and very admiring for many years of the work that ILFA has done over the last 15 years, because I've been following what ILFA has been doing from not long after they started, and I think it's a tremendous patient support organisation. So I'd like to tell you about patientmpower, and I know some of you know something about our product already, and some of you are using it. But patientmpower, we are a healthcare company that works by trying to use technology to help people to collect information which may help them to manage their condition better. And we started thinking about pulmonary fibrosis because we recognize that this, having information and knowing more about what's happening can actually make quite a difference to how you manage to live with a long-standing condition, and also should or could be helpful in getting the best out of visits to your clinician, because you would have, or to your specialist physiotherapist or your specialist nurse, because you have more information at your fingertips, or you can remember what happened a month ago, which you might have forgotten about otherwise. So yes, there we go. So we actually started talking to some of you. In fact, we came to one of the coffee mornings. I think it was summer last year, summer 16, because we wanted to see. Because essentially what a user of this will perceive it as, they'll see it as an app, but we wanted to understand, would this approach be of interest, or would it be something that people would feel comfortable with? And we came along. You very kindly let us come along to some of your coffee mornings, and even gave us some coffee and biscuits. And we talked about whether this would be a good idea, and the feedback was people would actually welcome some kind of an app with an associated measurement device to help keep track of what was happening. And I can't really show you it live because I can't make my phone come out on the computer, but the idea is this is an app. The starting point is this is an app that you would download to your phone or your iPad type of device. You don't need a really fancy phone to do it. It'll work on any kind of a smartphone. You can link it to, that's a spirometer, so you can link it to a handheld spirometer so that you can measure spirometry at home. The information from the spirometer will go into the system, in the phone, and it will be stored both on the phone and in cloud storage. So if you dropped your phone, lost your phone, changed your phone, you wouldn't lose the information. And it will build this information over time. It also can link to a pulse oximeter, so that you could also use it to track pulse oximetry information, and the information from the pulse oximeter will also connect to the platform, and it will be stored over time, so that you can use it. So you can see the information. What is your FVC today? What is your pulse oximetry right now? It also has medication reminders, so if you're on medication for lung fibrosis, but maybe you're on other things that sometimes you might have trouble remembering to take, especially if they're more than once a day, sometimes it's tricky to remember, you can set it to give you a medication reminder. We also have, there's a scoring system, so you can, very simple scoring system, so you can just keep a diary of how breathless you felt, maybe at the same time every day. And we've done some work with Anne-Marie, trying to actually use this to try and measure some information on the patient-reported outcome measure that she talked about, so that you can build a picture both based on very measurable things like lung function, but maybe things that are kind of harder to describe, like breathlessness and quality of life. And also, we have some informational videos in the background. So, if there was a particular physio exercise that you kind of have struggled to remember exactly how to do it, you could have a video clip of it. So you could have it as a reference to go back to remember it. And you can see here little pictures of the tablet. So if you tell it you're on 3 different types of tablet, it'll actually show you a picture of what the tablet looks like and says, take me at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the other one might be take me at 6 o'clock in the evening. The picture on the right is what the breathlessness scale looks like. It's just 5 questions. You just tick one box. Quite a simple scale, been used for a very long time, so it's a well-respected measurement scale for breathlessness. I could do spirometry, so in fact, I'll show you what it looks like when you're doing it. And bearing in mind, you'll all have to shout at me the way Kieran does when you're doing your breathlessness. So this is how. So there's no wires, and you don't have to write anything down, which is good. So a little bit of audio.
Slow, deep breath, as deep as you can. You can put it up to the microphone. Keep blowing. Keep blowing. Keep blowing. Keep blowing.
So the windmill goes around faster, the faster you blow. So it shows, so in about a minute, it shows the information from that last blow, and that's stored. Now, we're working on ways of how can we share this information directly with the, when you go to your clinic visit, how you can share it with the clinic. So at the moment, what we're doing is we can download a report which will print out all of the data, but we are working with some of the clinical care centres to actually directly send the data into their system so they have it on board in real time. But that's a work in progress at the moment. But we think that sharing of information could be very, very useful in both the clinical caregiver and yourselves getting the best value out of the clinic visits. The way we sort of make this available, it's actually available as an app now through the usual places like iTunes and Google Play Store, and you download the app and we email you a file that has some YouTube clips that tells you how to do different things, like how to get the spirometer to talk to the app, how to install the app. Most people are able to install it themselves at home. Sometimes they need somebody to help them, but usually it's fairly straightforward to install usually. We obviously can provide telephone support if anybody needs that to help install it or to help get the spirometer working correctly. So we can provide support either by phone. There's a support button in the app itself which will connect to us directly. And what we've been working on recently, we started out, this time last year we were looking to try and identify a spirometer that would work well with it. So now we've found that. So this device is commercially available. It's sold around the world. So it's a properly regulated device. And recently we have identified a good pulse oximeter. This is a device from a company called Nonin, but this is a high quality pulse oximeter which talks directly to the app as well. We've recently been able to get the app to take in activity data. So if you're thinking of your 2,000 steps a day challenge, or maybe your own personal target as a different target, it can pull in the information on your activity, either from your Fitbit, if you wear something like a Fitbit, and a lot of people buy these now. But it can also, if it happens to be that you use your phone to measure your exercise, and a lot of the modern phones will actually count steps, we can make the app actually pull in the information from the phone, whether it's an iPhone or another type of phone. We're working on identifying a digital thermometer. This might be useful if it's important to monitor temperature on a regular basis. And we're also working on something different, which is a weighing scales, which sometimes can be useful for measuring overall health. The other thing we have in the platform that we've recently introduced, we're trying to link up with sources of data on things like air quality. Obviously, if the air quality is very bad and you have any kind of a lung condition, you're going to be at risk of exacerbating that condition. So the app now will always show you the air quality in the geographical location that you're in at the time, not where you live, but where the device is. We're working on also adding in some information on ultraviolet index, because that might be very important if you're on any medicines where there's a risk of skin reactions in response to light. And this works worldwide because we're using a worldwide source of data on that. But that potentially is a useful feature. We are doing clinical trials and user experience surveys because we really want to try and really establish the value of this app. And thanks to people from ILFA, people in this room who have volunteered to do some of these surveys, and thanks to Nicola for helping us design it, and to Gemma for helping us to get it run. We've done a survey of what users who are ILFA users, how useful they find the platform. And in fact, we're just about to start publishing that information. So we'll actually be publishing it for the first time at a conference late next week. Professor Regan, who was here earlier on, he's actually doing a study in Galway with some of his patients who are using the survey, and we're trying to see how does the information captured in the platform, how does that link up to how those patients are doing in the clinic visits. We're planning a larger version of that shortly, which we hope will be a nationwide study. That's in planning at the moment. We hope to start that before the end of the year. That will be coordinated by Dr. Kate O'Reilly from the Mater. And we've also done a user experience survey with a patient support group in Texas, the PF Warriors, which is a very active patient support group, because we wanted to get a feel for how widespread, it could be that people in one country really like it and people in another country really hate it. We don't know. We don't know how useful it is in different countries. We want to get a feel for that. And we're sort of still analysing that, but we've got about 28 people have done that. And just to give you a flavour of where we are, so we've finished the first phase of the ILFA survey, and we're still analysing the information from the PF Warriors in Texas. Now, the interesting thing about the Texas one was that was obviously we didn't go to people's houses to help them install the platform in Texas, so it was a real remote control study. So we kind of established that it was reasonably straightforward to support people at a distance in getting the platform up and running and getting the spirometry up and running. I don't know if you can read the text, but we asked structured questions to try and get a really good feel for what people thought of it. And broadly speaking, the responses were positive. Now, I think we have to bear in mind that the people who volunteered to try the app are obviously people who thought they would like to try an app. So not everybody likes apps, but if you do like apps and are comfortable using apps, it seems that broadly speaking, it was positively received. Most people liked using the platform. Most people said they would like to continue using the platform after the 6 weeks of the study, and most people felt it was useful to to use it to measure the impact on daily life. Those other questions it's a bit hard to see those. There was a kind of a mixed feedback or mixed opinions as to some people thought the platform was useful to help them reach their exercise goal or to exercise more, and some people thought it was useful to help them in taking their medicines at the right time or taking the right dose, but some people didn't. So there was kind of a more mixed view of that, but broadly speaking it was positive. We had some very positive comments, broadly speaking, and but we also had some comments that, I like spirometer is cool. I thought that was the best comment we had, I think, because it's nice and short and sweet. And people liked having access to exercise data as well, because it was kind of, for some people, it was somewhat motivational. We did have some negative comments in that I think most people welcomed being able to see their FVC data on a regular basis, but some people had questions about, what does that mean for me? Does that mean I'm doing well, or does it mean I'm not doing well? Some people found there were tricky bits sometimes getting the spirometer to talk to the platform, but usually that was something we could solve. Just to give you the very first feedback from the PF Warriors group in Texas. Now, we had about 18 people provided responses, and this hasn't been published yet, but broadly speaking, all of the people who responded said they liked it and they wanted to use it. and they also felt it was, broadly speaking, easy to use, and they would recommend it to other people. But again, like the ILFA users, they also was a more mixed view. If you look at the two bar charts on the right, it was more, some people definitely found it useful to help them exercise more or take their medicines, but also some people didn't find it so useful for that. So it was a more mixed view, but that very much reflects, I think, the experience of people here. So I suppose when putting this together, I think for people who are comfortable with using apps and comfortable with using small devices and with the technology approach of keeping a diary of what's going on, it seems to be popular, and people seem to like it and interesting. And one measure of that is people are using it regularly. And I think that's the best measure, because if people don't like something, they won't use it. If they don't find it useful, they won't use it. And one of the things that's really important to us is what we'd really like to do is this is collecting a lot of information, which is potentially a very, very valuable research tool. But the information is valuable in certain ways. We hope it's very valuable for a one-to-one, for a patient to clinician relationship, that you have better information when you go to your clinical or your specialist nurse or your specialist physio, that you've better information and it can have a better, more meaningful conversation and get more out of the consultation. At another level, putting all the information together in an anonymized way and analyzing it, it is going to be a very powerful resource for people doing research. It could be a resource for a patient association to better understand what are the needs of patients in general, so that you can be a little bit more targeted perhaps in seeking certain resources. It could be useful to companies who are developing new treatments. It could be a useful way for researchers to have a better understanding of what's happening to patients or the patient experience as they go through a study. Because we do plan to be able to share the information in real time with clinical experts. This probably have to, oh yes, we are rolling it out in other languages. We do want to, we also want to develop sort of some more information tools about what does the FVC mean for me. In the future, we'd like to be able to improve the analysis. So if, for example, there's something negative happening in a particular measurement like FVC, that it might be able to provide some messaging to say, potentially there's something here that you should do and that you should take some action. So in summary, usually most people are able to get it installed at home themselves. By install, I mean it's downloading an app and getting the spirometer and the pulse oximeter to pair with the app. Most people seem to like using it and used it most days of the week, typically 5 days a week. Regular home monitoring of spirometry and recording of impact and quality of life seems to be practical. People don't seem to mind doing it too much, and they do it fairly frequently. And broadly speaking, the experience was positive for most users. So I'm really grateful to the people who signed up and did this for it, because it gave us our first indication that first of all, it gave us really good information on a couple of things that we should be doing to improve it. But it really gave us some, a feeling that we were providing something that was useful, certainly for some people. It is available it's available now. You can download it from places like Google Play Store and Apple iTunes. The devices are available to buy. You can buy them from suppliers of these devices, or we can supply them as well through us. So it's available now. We are doing a lot of research work with it. We are talking to other patient associations, and we're talking to clinical expert groups who are doing research projects as well. So I would hope that, over the next year or so, we'd have more to say about how it's been used in various research projects as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you about it, and thank you very much for helping us in actually bringing it to fruit and having it available. Thank you.